Hello and welcome to Extreme Gameplay, so I play games stylishly. Today I decided to make another video of me reacting to bad reviews about God of War 2. I don't know why I'm laughing. So the last episode I reacted to some bad reviews about God of War 1, and sheesh, those were really bad. Today I decided to do the same thing but for the sequel. God of War 2 came out in 2007 for critical acclaim, sir. That's what reviewers like to say. The game sold very well, and it was just the PS2's grand what do they call it? God of War 2 is my third favorite God of War. It is one of the best action games of all time, with the best mechanics, with the best systems, and I decided to read some bad reviews today because I like doing it. The reviews are all from Metacritic though, so just in case you wanted to go ahead and read them and hate them and harass the people potentially, but don't do that. But that's on you. The first review by Manta Orlando: great combat, great music, great sequel. The only negative aspect is that the bosses are less memorable. My guy, less memorable?
Are you sure about that?
Like, that's the one thing I didn't expect to read today. That's like the one thing. It's 12 p.m. right now. I did not. I'm keeping this frame way too long. For real, the one thing I hear people talk a lot about God of War, which is great for 50 other reasons, but this is the main thing I hear people talk about a lot, and it's how great the bosses are. There's just a huge, like, there's the quantity and the quality of the boss fights. A lot of people really like them. Like, how do you not like the awesome mechanics of the Sisters of Fate, of Theseus, of the Barbarian King, of Zeus? How do you not like the spectacle of fucking Colossus of Rhodes? Like, that's the best big boss ever. How do you not like the puzzle fight of the Kraken, for example? The Kraken your ass. These stuff, you know, really push the boss fights forward, and I honestly, I'm lost about this whole thing. So let's just keep on reading what he has to say. No name in this game stuck to me, aside from a few. Athena! This next one by Mindkiller7522, he gave it a 4, but I still decided to include it. Does not hold up well. Oh boy. Having played the original and not liking it, and then decades later playing the PS4 God of War, technically the 4th entry, and realizing it is absolutely amazing, I thought I would see what I was missing in the gap between. Turns out, frustration is the answer, ladies and gentlemen. Every time the camera pans through a new puzzle room, I cringed. Oh. Each enemy encounter includes about 10 to 50 more enemies that you'll enjoy fighting, and the story seems more interested in how violent they can make Kratos without anyone realizing that he just smashed an old man's face into a table. Smashed an old man's face into a table? I mean, the Zeus one comes to mind right now, but I don't know really specifically which one he's talking about.
Oh fuck. Oh, I can't believe you've done this.
The puzzles weren't difficult in design, but with no camera control and some puzzle requiring solving while you are getting hit by enemies, it becomes a real slog. There's also a really poorly implemented mechanic where you are turned to stone by Gorgons. If by chance this happens in the air mid-jump, you shatter instantly. Really a frustrating way to have to repeat a section. Oh my god, you cannot be critiquing the petrification system. So this amazing petrification system that is very unique to God of War is bad somehow? Like, that's totally on you if you got frozen in the air and you dropped and you broke. That's completely fair, honestly. The Gorgons make you play better, the incentive is there. You can kind of reverse her beam or grab her in God of War 3 and just freeze everyone around you. This is literally the most risky thing, yes, but why don't you like this risk in gaming? I don't understand that part. It's totally your fault if you got frozen in the air and you dropped and you broke. Like, that's just in the mechanics of the game. Like, you gotta be more careful when around Gorgons, I guess. There are millions of ways to work the friendly fire petrification, but I guess you never really bothered to experiment with that. So let's move on to your next point. This game is a product of time where games were meant to be frustrating with very little story. We'll see if I can still stick with the series. Huh! I mean, he is kind of right. Old games used to kind of be difficult. That was the way to kind of bring players back, but isn't that better than walkie-talkies? The next one by Sportsair Crap. Hello there! And oh my god, it's literally the same thing he just He just changed the numbers. I want to see this guy on God of War 3 reviews. I want to see him. And oh my god, it is the same review from the God of War 1. He just changed the numbers. I'm sure he just changed it. I can't wait to meet this guy in every God of War review. I just want to do that, honestly. Gameplay 1. Unplayable. Fun 1. You can't have fun. Story 7. Story is set during era 5000 BC to 500 BC. Okay, what's the problem? Why is this a 1-star review? Cast 7. Great. Score? Overrated by all should get less than 7.8. You gave it a 1! You didn't even give it like a 5 at least. Sports seer crap. Honestly, I want to meet him and when I eventually do the God of War 3 review, but wow. 0 of 2 users found this helpful. Fellas, do we have gameplay at 1? Yes, we do. Gameplay sucks. It's a button masher. Next up by Psycho6. There's a typo in there, so you should be called Typo6. First off, God of War 2 is way too short. Aw, hell no. The game takes about 8 hours to beat and is fun for the first 30 minutes. The game centers around Kratos, the new God of War, and his revenge plan to kill Zeus because he got tricked. Kratos is a moron because the gods are his family, so he ends up killing his whole family again. Whoa. So, the entirety of the theme about God of War 2 is not hope and is not changing fate. It was about family all along? The combat and moves are flashy and repetitive. The magic in this game is almost useless. Wow. I mean, God of War 2's magic is the least game I would expect you to say that about, but okay. The quote-unquote puzzles are really easy, and the boss battles take no time whatsoever. This game takes things from other games like Rygar and Devil May Cry, like... Oh, whoa, this is interesting. Hold on. This is in 2012, so this is not in like... He didn't watch Tactical Bacon's video and then comment about the Rygar thing, but it's pretty interesting to see Rygar in here. This game takes things from other games like Rygar and Devil May Cry, like the Rage of the Titans and the Orbs. The only reason this game is as popular as it is because the blood, gore, and the flashy moves. I didn't know pressing a button at the right time made you... a beta? I'm gonna go over his first point, which was how the game is short. There's another thing about old games that used to be great, and it's that they kind of pushed replayability. So this game, you finish it and you play through very hard, where the game is much more well balanced and everything is great and collision scale, so it's much more fair than the normal difficulty, believe it or not. So yeah, old games used to be kind of short, but replaying them was also fun, you know. This is a thing with the old Resident Evils, with the old Devil May Cries, with the old God of Wars, with the old literally a lot of games. It's just they were meant to be short but challenging, I guess. And you didn't find this game challenging because I suppose you played it on normal, which I mean, of course, you're giving that impression. Playing the game on very hard would take you kind of longer with how much harder the enemy aggro is and how much harder everything is. You're gonna have to strategize on very hard, and you'll come to know that the magic is not completely useless if you used Riley's head to the most effect. If you maxed out Chronos Rage, if you used Typhon's Bane, you would not really say that about the magic attack, which was weird. And the game being 8 hours long is fine. Is the best thing, actually. I mean, if you're playing other games at the time, I guess you were playing some Halo games and some RPG and Grand Theft Auto games, basically. These types of games are meant to be long, but I mean, God of War is not meant to be long. It's a action hack and slash that requires the player's skill, so it kind of wants you to master the game and keep on replaying it, and not just... I guess it's not for a one-time experience, although it is pretty cool. I don't know what you're talking about, but... the length never really bothered me. It never really bothered anyone who is interested in combat. So let's move on to the next point. The puzzles are really easy. Now that is a really interesting take that I didn't really expect to see here. I expected people to hate the fuck out of the puzzles because, I mean, look, as a kid, even I struggled with the puzzles, but I never really found them to be annoying. And this guy's finding them to be way too easy, which is... wow. And the boss battles take no time whatsoever. This one I do not understand in my, what, 15 years of playing God of War? Like, you have the Colossus of Rhodes, where it's literally 3 phases for this boss fight. You have the Sisters of Fate, where it's also 3 phases for this boss fight. You have Zeus, which is just also like 2 phases for this guy alone. You have the Kraken, where you're fighting it for like 10 minutes, I guess. I don't know. The boss battles are long. They do take their time to kind of flow with you. I don't really understand this point. Like, the Barbarian King is a very fun boss fight. You can have You can have him at the first phase where he's using the Elden Ring style of battle. Then you're fighting him head on with him spawning other enemies. Then you're fighting him when he's big. Then you're fighting him when he's small again. You have Theseus. What a great boss fight, and creative, and he does take long. So I'm pretty sure you played this on easy or normal. You did not play this on hard or very hard. You did not. Especially owing to your next point where you say it's like Rygar and Devil May Cry. Look, inspiration is one thing. Like, having the Rage of Titans, right, it is inspired from Devil May Cry, but bro, it's done to a whole different extent than what Devil May Cry did. Devil May Cry's DT is a whole other thing, and I will make a video one day comparing God of War and Devil May Cry. Not comparing them, but I'm just gonna make a video about how these two are not the same. Inspiration is one thing, but they didn't just snatch that thing off of Devil May Cry and make it the exact same mechanic. It's two different mechanics. Like God of War is more, God of War 2's Rage of the Titans is more of an amplifier as well. It's not just a, hey, I'm gonna attack and I'm super powerful in this form. It's much more than that. And the Rygar point is kind of interesting, seeing as this guy had it in 2012, this whole argument of God of War ripping off Rygar. I don't have anything to say about it, and I don't want to say anything that might be kind of bad for David Jaffe's image or whatever. So I don't know if they did steal the setting and the idea of the blades from Rygar, but I recommend, of course, watching Tactical Bacon's video to understand more about this whole subject. But honestly, this is just interesting. Like, I'm kind of surprised he didn't mention anything like Ninja Gaiden or Prince of Persia for the at least type of setting or combat. But yeah, the only reason this game is as popular as it is because of the blood, gore, and the flashy moves. Okay, this is wrong. You have the bosses that a lot of people love. You have the awesome, spectacular level design that people love. You have the amazing combat that is arguably the best in the entire series. You have the enemy design. My god, the amount of enemies this game has. You have the amazing combat loop of the original God of War, which was prevalent in God of War 1, and it's prevalent after all later on with God of War 3 and all that. Like, this game is popular for way more reasons than just flashy moves, gore, and blood. It's way more popular than what you just think. And finally, he's saying, I didn't know pressing a button at the right time made you a badass. I'm not even gonna mention the S because, well, I'm not going to mention the S. Let's move on to the next one, which is Apocalypse Brown. While Games TM have sold out in the mighty... Okay, I gotta read this in a special way. While Games TM have sold out to the mighty pound signs, Edge keep the reviews real, and to be brutally honest, this game is shit. Not America's most wanted territory, but after the initial qualities the game throws at you, it's plain downhill after that. Seriously, gameplay has moved on from this dog turd. Pity Sony haven't realized it. Am I right? I'm at the edge of the screen right now, and I don't feel like... See, like, again, where I mentioned this feels like being disappointed in your father. It's not, okay, I'm not making the whole narrative again of being disappointed in your son, but this really feels like, again, the same point applies here. It feels like watching your father get knocked out in front of you and he's trying to convince you that he's strong. I don't know how I should tackle this one. He's like, let's just move on. Next review by Could Be Better. Oh my god, this is the type of guys that have a weird, like their username is checking out for literally everything that they do. Like, they just exist to critique stuff, which it's fine to have critiquers, if they're called. It's fine to have critics kind of adjusted for a game franchise or for gaming in general, but this guy is just, I know this is gonna be bad because he gave it a 0. You cannot give God of War a 0. It's just like, you can't. If a game is interactable, it's not a 0. If you can walk your character around, that's a 1 out of 10. I don't care. I don't care what this guy says, but let's read it. God of War 2 is the worst of the series. My god. You say that with a straight face. One of the most bizarrely overrated action games, bruh. It has the worst boss fights, especially the mini bosses and pseudo boss fight puzzles. Tedious one-off sections, worst combat, the slowest and the most shallow blades and secondary weapons in the entire series. And quite possibly the worst story ever in a video game. Oh my god. So this game's story is worse than fucking The Last of Us Part 2? I just triggered a fan base. The original God of War is still to this day the finest action game I've ever played. This is surprising to hear from you. I don't know how the second game turned out to be several tiers below in overall quality. Although God of War 2 doesn't deserve 0 score, probably a 5 or 6, I simply chose it because of how overrated this game is. At least God of War 3 redeemed the franchise and Santa Monica Studio. So you gave this one a 0 just because you think it's overrated? Could be better? You're a long shot. Could be better. You can do better. Could be better. Could do better. God of War 2 is the worst in the series. Flat out wrong. A lot of people have it at the top. For reasons, obviously. One of the most bizarrely overrated action games. It's not overrated. Literally go ahead and play it today. It aged like the finest of the finest wines that I don't... It has the worst boss fights. Funny enough, people praise this game for the boss fights. Like, it's great for 50,000 other reasons, but the majority of the people who praise this game praise it for the boss fight. So I don't see where this is coming from. Especially the mini bosses and pseudo boss fight puzzles. Like, look, it's creative, like it or not. Boss fights that are puzzles are creative. The Kraken is creative. The Kraken your ass is also creative and could be better. Tedious one-off sections. Like, I don't understand this point. I really don't. Like, look at the amount of areas that you visit and how they change the complete setting of the game. I don't see where all this is coming from. And especially later on when he says, the worst combat. And here are the points that he says. It has the slowest and most shallow blades. Look, compared to God of War 1, I guess he's right. The blades are not as fast and as fluid as God of War 1, but my guy, the blades are still fast. And his point stands for the secondary weapons as well, where this one I do not really understand. Like, the Spear of Destiny is pretty clear. It is your setup weapon. It helps you set up your enemies. It helps you kind of with the collisions and all the access to the knockback. You have access to a knockback with the Spear of Destiny that easily. A knockback half collision that scores some nice damage on very hard. Take tips from Extreme Gameplays every day. You have the Barbarian Hammer that is clearly your damaging tool. Correct, you cannot dodge with it, but what's stopping you from tricking through attacks? This review is in 2017, and I don't expect this guy to be over the ultimate God of War union, but it's like, still, the weapons are good. You would at least have fun with the Spear of Destiny if you learned about the triangle and how fast the launcher is, and you know, the shotgun blast that I like to call it, the piercing shard. There's a lot going on for the weapons. The Blade of Olympus is lacking, but still, like, you have two other very cool weapons throughout the entirety of the game. It's just, I don't get some of these points. And quite possibly the worst story ever in a video game. How? The story starts with Kratos doing his job as a God of War. Now that part is just a edge fest for the edgelords. Zeus kills Kratos thinking Kratos is gonna rise one day and eliminate Olympus, I guess. Kratos sets out on a trip to change his fate and to go back to the day where Zeus killed him. Like, this premise alone is amazing. You go through this entire story and this world is showing you how there are other characters in the world. It's not just you. Like, the world continues with or without Kratos, and it's shown in the most beautiful way. Like this arena against the last Spartan, for example. Like, you're fighting him, the arena is the spire, both of y'all's goals to go there and change your fate. Or this guy, Perseus, the arena is also the stage for the spire. It's really amazing, and it's showing you how a lot of people have ambitions just like you. It's not just Kratos hunting to change his fate. Icarus is doing the same thing. The last Spartan is doing the same thing. Perseus is doing the same thing. The storytelling in God of War 2 is spectacular. It is showing environmental storytelling. It's showing literal just cutscene storytelling. It's showing a lot of hope themes, a lot of themes and tropes that you see in your casual great stories that you might think are great. I don't understand how you think God of War 2 story is bad. Like, I'm just gonna simply move on to the next points that you have. So this guy really praises the original God of War, but thinks this is an overall downgrade. This is an upgrade in nearly 90% of what God of War 1 did. Level design, upgraded. Combat, upgraded to the most part. I still prefer God of War 1, but it is upgraded, like it or not, if you're a casual, I guess. The characters, the voice acting, literally everything is upgraded. Not the story of God of War 1 is better. Some things I prefer from God of War 1, but still, a lot of people loved how this game is actually an upgrade to God of War 1. You visit a lot more areas in God of War 2. You fight a lot more, you guessed it, bosses in God of War 2. I don't see how this is a downgrade when compared to God of War 1. And you saying God of War 3 redeemed everything. God of War 3 is my favorite God of War, but God of War 2 went out with a bang! Like, I wasn't there for the hype in 2007, but I would like to imagine the hype people felt for this game being released for the PS2. This game ran on PS2! Fucking insane, man. I'm just gonna move on to the next reviewer by Metal Gear Solid Fan. 2 out of 18 users found this helpful, so I should read this. This is a 0 out of 10 review, by the way. Horrible game. Okay, moving on to the next review by Bob, who also gave it a 0. This game is nothing more than a tedious, button mashing, oh yeah. I live for this, by the way. Tedious, button mashing arcade game with cumbersome camera angles which make it difficult to truly enjoy the action. Okay. The camera is literally making you enjoy what you're seeing. I don't know why this complaint about the old cameras is like this. Hell, I don't understand the complaints about hack and slash cameras in general. I don't know why people hate this shit. Don't you like watching your character looking this fucking cool from afar, killing every enemy? These beautiful camera angles. And by the way, you who's watching right now, God of War 2 revels at what it does with this camera. I have a whole video about sceneries in the old God of War games, and God of War 2 takes up like half of the entirety of the video for the awesome scenery. These awesome zoom outs and the action, and when you're running just normally, and when you're in puzzles showing you, you know, crucial spots that you should aim for. I do not understand this whole critique of the old camera style. What the fuck is going on in today's world? Although this was in 2007, not in today's world, I still do not understand. Like, it's fine if you don't really like this camera angle, but saying it's overall bad is just overall bad on your image. I don't know how 1 out of 5 users found this helpful, but I do know one thing: God of War, the old God of War's camera is not just... it does not take you away from the action. It puts you in the action. It's just great to have some games who don't require you to control the camera, bro. It's just great where some games do that. You know that, right? This guy wants every game to allow you to control the camera. It's not always good practice. Like, God of War really has fun with that. It makes the camera angle seem the best in the entire genre, which it is. I don't know how someone can say this, and that was the last review, which I even forgot to mention that was the last review. But overall, God of War 2 is a very great game. Don't listen to these assholes. Go ahead and play it. It has a nice little story. It does fuck up a lot with the time travel at the end, but please go ahead and play it. It has some of the best bosses, it has some of the best encounters, it has some of the best weapons, it has some of the best characters, period. The levels, you're gonna enjoy them. The graphics, they aged like fine wine. The camera angles, the fights are all gonna be so well and strategic. Just go ahead and have fun with it on the hardest difficulty and replay it, and then do it again, and then do a no upgrade run that I stream every day. With that, we come to the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I make God of War content. I stream God of War content nearly every day. If you love God of War content, you can subscribe. I'm here for you. It has been your Extreme Gamer Zesty. Peace. Watch this beautiful outro.